Donald Trump was down in Virginia revealing his plan to reform the VA. But is this really the change our veterans need?
We'll ask someone who works on this full-time, Fox News contributor and CEO of Concerned Veterans for America, our friend Pete Hegseth. Good to see you, Pete.
Good morning, Pete.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
This is the part of the plan that just jumped out at me right away. Under the Trump plan, a vet would be able to get care from any doctor who takes Medicare. So it would basically break, he believes, the monopoly the VA system has on vets' health care. What do you think of that?
So the principle there is sound, the idea of choice, the idea to empower the veteran to go outside the system. Problem is, when my organization, Concerned Vets for America, looked at all the options, the reimbursement, there's so many problems with the way Medicare is reimbursed, the way the VA reimburses, and the reimbursement rates, that you're going to get a lot of vets shut out from private options. And that option actually looks a lot like the Choice Card program, which John McCain championed, which Donald Trump criticized. So it's the program itself is the idea itself is simple, but it's not that simple, and that's part of the problem. Is it's actually not going to fix a lot of the problems vets are facing.
So yesterday, when he was on the USS Wisconsin, he said, and what Tucker just said, he said, quote, "The plan will ensure our veterans get the care they need wherever and whenever they need it." You're saying, though, it won't be as simple to implement that.
Well, no, it won't be as simple to implement that, and the choice card that the VA is currently working is a great example of the fact that there's a lot more complicating underlying factors. You have to restructure VHA, which is the health delivery system. His plan doesn't even mention the word VHA or any sort of restructuring, and as a result, the incentives for the bureaucracy still within this will, I think, not allow the veteran the amount of choice they should have.
Well, the bureaucracy, for all intents and purposes, has been a disaster. I mean, you know, starting from the top, the main headline coming out of this, or at least the first headline of many coming out of this, was Donald Trump saying, you know, he's going to go to the top and fire everybody. Is that the place to start?
Hey, accountability is long overdue. So another place where we appreciate the sentiment of his plan, for sure. Executives, those throughout the organization have been way too protected for way too long. But you've got to have, again, the right kind of system so that they're set up to succeed as well. And there's no fundamental reform of VHA, changing it so it can be run as a healthcare system as opposed to bureaucracy. Because he may want to fire people, but right now the legislation isn't in place to allow him to fire people, and his plan doesn't say anything about that.
So a year ago, I don't remember immigration or trade coming, you know, from the lips of any mainstream politician. There was not really a national debate on those questions. Trump talked about them in very non-specific terms, and now we're debating it. Do you think this will have the same effect? Will at least move VA to the center of the discussion?
You know, I hope so, and I got to give Donald Trump credit for that from the beginning. He's been talking about vets, he's been talking about the VA, how he's going to be great and huge and fantastic for vets, which is all good. It's just then we get a three-page PDF plan that's very thin on any specifics or proposals and thick on rhetoric, which is a lot of what we've seen. So I give him credit for raising the issue. I just think some other candidates in this race have been far more specific in how they would deliver real choice and real...
Last of the president's men here in Studio One. Bob Woodward, welcome.
Thank you.
In the coverage of this presidential campaign, do you feel more than any other that maybe substance and policy is taking a backseat to personality, polls, and insults?
Yes, certainly. And the question is, who are these people? How might they really do things? You know, in journalism, our main job is to figure out what happened and then why. And we need to drive into the question harder, you know, why? Who are these people? Why are they running? What is their value system? And I think it will be done, but it's going to take a lot of patience. And as you point out each week in the culture of the internet, driven, impatient speed, give it to me in 140 characters.
On that point,
depth doesn't get you there.
On that point, you were on a rally, you were talking about Hillary Clinton, and you said this: we are going to find out that my newspaper, your network, all the news organizations, and everyone is going to do a 20,000-word, 30,000-word biography of every stage of her life. And I must confess, it struck me as kind of an old-fashioned observation, because journalists can write these 30,000-word pieces, but what seems to drive the news cycle, the quick hits, the pithy tweets, the viral video.
Yes, but if you really find something that is new and explains who these people are, that will drive the news cycle. And people will read it, or maybe they won't read all 30,000 words, as frequently happens, but they will get the essence of it because it will become part of the discussion. election.
But does the culture of journalism still reward that kind of deep digging, which, as you know better than anybody, takes time? There are dry holes. You've got to cross-check things. You've got to maybe have it checked by a lawyer. Does the culture of journalism still reward that?
Yes, it does. And what's important is the readers and viewers reward it. I mean, at heart, people want to look at the president as somebody who's very serious, and what are the ideas driving them, and all of these questions that you can only answer with an in-depth excavation and biographical study.
How would you cover Donald Trump, who not only seems to get a lot of attacks in the media, but that criticism from the media in many ways seems to make him stronger?
Well, but if I were doing Trump, I'd do 50,000 words and do each deal and look at, how did he get his money? This is a guy who's been in the news for decades. And has a long history. As Vladimir Putin said, not a stage of our life passes without a trace, right?
Right. And Trump is running on his business.
Trump
is running on his business success. That's part of what he is selling to the country.
Sure. So there's a lot of work to be done. In fact, with all of these candidates, in the end, if we talk about this after the election, I think we're going to say that we went back to the character studies, because you're not electing somebody, a soundbite. You're electing somebody who's a person, and we want to know that. So I'm sold on the idea, particularly after doing